COOGS House. They did it. They did it again.
You are Locked On Cougs, your daily podcast on the Houston Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Cougs Daily Podcast about your Houston Cougars. I'm your host, Houston-born teacher and coach, and I don't even know what to say. I'm just so excited. Thank you for making us your first listen, second listen today. We got a couple things coming out today. Appreciate you making us your first, second, whichever listen today, each and every day. I really like starting the day off with you guys, though, if I'm being really honest. If you want to join the conversation, we want to say, tell us down below a Mexican food restaurant you'd recommend to someone from San Antonio who's used to things like the Riverwalk. I don't actually know what there is to do in San Antonio. Not much into San Antonio, but Houston gets a big-time recruit out of San Antonio, and that's going to headline today's episode. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We got too much to talk about. We're going to have that fun later. I want to talk about where recruiting goes from here because there is an after this as well. I want to talk some about how Kingston Fleming will fit into the recruiting class that they've built. But first and foremost, we need to talk some about landing Kingston Fleming. Kingston Fleming, top point guard in America by some accord, the #1 player in Texas by others, lands with the Houston Cougars on Thursday, November 14th. A really cool moment. He and his family did the signing day thing with 24/7. But his sister actually kind of steered the ship. She's got her own, Bella Flemings has her own podcast called The Journey, I believe, on YouTube. I subscribe. You should subscribe too. Help support the Cougar family. Obviously, she is, for what it's worth, a tremendous basketball player in her own right. I thought she was like, saw she was like a 5-star, whatever. Da, da, da. I thought she was a twin sister, be it like same grade, because she was that good. No. She's younger. She's just that good. But that's future stuff. Today's show is talking about Kingston Flemings, and he comes into Houston currently as a high-end 4, low-end 5-star recruit, depending on where you're looking at. Everyone has him in the top 20 in America. I think the lowest I saw him on any of like the 8 or 9 recruit boards had him at like 21, or like he is a tops kind of guy. I think what honestly hurt him in some of those, the reason he's not even higher, right? Because he did kind of fluctuate some. Were two things. One, he played with San Antonio Future over the summer, which was a Puma club. If you were following the AAU circuits for high school basketball, Puma had a rough summer, almost had to fold up completely. That threw things off a little bit. He also missed some of the summer in AAU ball to go play with the U18 USA 3x3 3-on-3 basketball team getting ready for the future Olympics. And so he missed some of that evaluation process and period as well. I will say that if you ask a recruiter or a college coach that saw him in person, there is not one that did not walk away jaw dropped awe, right? This kid is that kind of talented, that kind of motor, intensity, tenacity, all of those big Houston Cougar culture words also have always been used to describe Kingston Flemings. I like, frankly, that the kid is loyal and stuck with San Antonio Future and, served his country in a way in playing for Team USA. I mean, those both speak to a high character kid and not a kid that's just looking out to get his name on the biggest bag or whatever possible. I think that indicates the familial atmosphere that Houston's trying to build, for what it's worth, or Houston has built. I guess they're trying to continue to build for what it's worth. I would also say, and it's cool that his family was there with him. He let his sister steal the show as far as the recruiting spiel goes. When he gets up to take his jacket off and reveal his Houston jersey, his teammates are there with him. It really, really cool moment for the kid. As far as on the floor goes, I mentioned tenacity and all the culture words, but like for reference, he had multiple 30-point double-doubles over the summer and had a shorter summer in the AAU circuit than others, right? He took San Antonio Brendan pretty far in the state playoffs last year, and Brendan's had good high school sports, but they're not the Duncanvilles. Back in my day, have been like Houston Yates or whatever of the world, right? Like they're not that, and he took San Antonio Brendan pretty far. He's listed on some places 6'2", some places 6'3". I haven't seen him in person. I think I saw him and Brennan play a couple years ago, but that would have been a long time before I was paying attention to future Cougars on the team necessarily. I actually might could see him play this weekend in North Texas. By happenstance, the team I'm coaching is in a similar thing in North Texas as well. And so I'm going to try and get over there and watch a little bit. He looks to me a little bit taller than 6'3" now, is what I was trying to get around to. I'd guess he's close to 175 if I'm just looking at pictures of him and videos of him playing. Um, all I got to say on this is a Houston Cougar special. I mean, the kid is dripping in Houston Cougar culture. Houston was involved with him early, and he and his family all said themselves that that relationship that they got in early and built with him was key, specifically with Kelvin and Kellen. And for a guy that, again, values relationships, his family and teammates are on stage and with him the whole time. He sticks with his Puma club, even though Puma's going through hard times. He wants to go play for his country when given the opportunity, even if it's 3x3. Like these things stick out to me as important. On the floor, okay, to the meat and potatoes here. I've likened him to both Derrick Rose and Russell Westbrook. He's explosive, fast twitch, quick twitch. The way he plays as a point guard is he puts so much pressure on the defense with his speed and fast twitch muscles, gets to the rim that it collapses defenses. He's a one-man fast break in that instance as well. Plays above the rim, two hands, cocking it back to all the different things. And he's got the long hair, so it's flying as he's going around too. Really, really impressive athlete to watch play. But it's not like just a flashy offensive guy. That's the thing. I kind of liken him to more like a young Russell Westbrook because he is diving on the floor, diving out of bounds, saving ball, taking charges. He's getting up and blocking shots, two hands on the backboard. I mean, he is really using that athleticism in every aspect of his game. It bleeds into everything. You cannot watch him play and not talk about it. So I don't mean to just talk about it. Frankly, people have asked me about him as a shooter. I got to be honest, I don't end up seeing him shooting a whole lot because no one can stay in front of him one-on-one long enough to make him pull up for a jump shot. I've seen him make some middies. I've seen him make some threes. His percentages are just kind of middle of the road, but I don't think it has had to be a big part of his game. Further, you work him with Quanis and Hollis for a while, I think he'll develop into it just fine. Look at some of the guys they've had come through Houston and kind of offensive games they've built. He's going to be fine in that department, right? The way he gets into the lane and bends defenses and kicks it out to guys is going to be great for playing guys like Mercy, guys like Emmanuel, Terrence, all these different guys. Catch and shoot is going to be super, super open with them on the floor. And then we'll talk about his matchups with Isiah in a second, his fellow 2025 classmate, but that's an important one too. For my money, I do think he's the best defensive guard in 2025. And watching some of those top guys, Darius Acuff and those kind of guys, I will say that if I were going to have to pick another one to rival him, kind of ironically, I would pick Isiah Harwell, who's Houston's other guard coming in. So that's kind of a win-win for Houston as well. But in watching him play, this is not taking quotes or anything like that because some of this can become coach speak from a high school kid, but he clearly values defense. And I think that's because of his style of offense. He plays in a way that makes me think he understands that if I get the ball on defense before it goes through the hoop, we can get on transition. We can get out and run. And if we get out and run, no one can stop me, right? That's the way he plays defensively, always going for the ball, always getting in front of people, coming over from help side and pinning the ball off the backboard. He's a great passer, and I would say that he hasn't necessarily been tested to late high school playoff stuff last year as far as utilizing that to his, it's not flashy. It's not like behind the back elbow passes like Jason Williams or something like that, but it really does get to the shooter's pocket and get up for a jump shot really quickly. Sees the floor well. He's, again, 6'2", 6'3". He's listed 6'2" on some sites. I think he's over 6'3" at this point. And man, that helps a lot. As we're seeing with Milos right now with Houston, a tall point guard can be a big, big deal for an offense because you can see over the top of defenses and things like that. Man, what a get for the Houston Cougars. Kelvin Sampson does it again. I cannot believe, I knew he was high on their radar and I knew he was high on them. I just kind of assumed everyone would discover this kid and Houston might get outbid or something. Kelvin Sampson said something before the season even started in starting the season, tipping off the season kind of press conference about like NIL and recruiting. And sometimes people are just outbidding you and things like that. I worried that a guy like Kingston, who's got such a flashy, fun game and is so good, was going to be one of those guys that he's talking about. And clearly, whether it's the relationships or whatever, it didn't matter. Kingston's coming to Houston, big time commit here for Kingston right before his, I guess, high school season starts off. And for my DFW folks, they're playing, I think it's in the Colony. Noble Classic is hosting a big event, and it's a showcase of sorts. And San Antonio Brennan's playing. Brennan High School at the moment is, you've seen public people on Twitter talking about how like they've reached out to national programs traveling through Texas to stop and play them, San Antonio, neutral site, whatever. And people don't want to. They're scared of lining up against guys like, I should say scared. They make logistical reasons why they can't play. It reads like they're scared. There you go. To play a guy like a Kingston. And frankly, the whole Big 12 should be, because he is on his way. Now, I want to talk about him and Isiah Harwell pairing up together, because I think that's going to be a really important part of Houston's future success in the immediate. But before we get to that, we've got a new buddy to talk about. That is our friends over at Omaha Steaks, because nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. This year, you can skip the holiday hustle and save 50% off gourmet gifts site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, you get a $30 reward card when you shop early. Score an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. With 5 generations of experience, they constantly deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gift experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages starting at $89.99. From the legendary steaks to mouthwatering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE and a $30 reward card when you shop early. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code COLLEGE. Minimum purchases may apply. Parker Ranger, Locked on Cougs here, talking about the gigantic recruiting class 2025 that Houston is bringing in. Currently, they have 2 signees and 1 commit. You have Isiah Harwell, just signed. He is a 5-star plus, 6'6-ish, 6'5-ish, 6'6-ish shooting guard out of Wasatch Academy. It's actually out of Idaho, but out of Wasatch Academy. Bryce Jackson from Shadow Creek, much closer, is a 3-star kid that's missed a lot of his high school career with injuries. Potential diamond in the rough kind of guy. If you ask anyone about him, great work ethic, great game, just hasn't gotten to show it off a whole lot yet. So that's really important. And the latest is commit 6'3-ish point guard out of San Antonio, Brennan, Kingston Fleming. And I think with Kingston and Isiah both being high-end recruits, Kingston being a top 20 recruit, and some people have him in the top 10, and Isiah Harwell being a consensus top 10 kind of guy, suddenly you're looking very much at one of the best backcourts ever recruited at anywhere in America, but certainly to the University of Houston. And you got to ask, how do their games pair? They're both going to need to play, and frankly, they're both kind of freshmen that have the talent to play right away. You're going to be graduating LJ and a few others along the way here. You have a large senior class with their COVID years leaving. So where will these 2 guys fit in? How do they fit in together? And I think the beauty of this is that they fit together really, really well. I've likened Isiah Harwell to shooters, your Devin Bookers of the world, right? Constantly moving, hips and shoulders always square to the basket, always under control, and plays at a high pace, but you can't get him off of his pace kind of player. Great movement without the basketball. Great jump shot. Smooth jump shot at Isiah Harwell. Who do you want dishing the ball? How about a at the basket and is constantly attacking the lane, right? Attack the lane, pull the defense in, kick it out with movement. We have him running off the pick and roll with Tugler rolling to the rim, McFarland rolling to the rim, Sedlot rolling to the rim, potentially someone in 2025 rolling to the rim. And then he gets to kick out to Isiah Harwell for threes off movement. Manuel Sharp will be a senior if he wants to come back next year. I don't know that he'll have an NBA shot yet necessarily, so I imagine he's coming back next year, kicking into the other wing. I mean, you got all these shooters around it. It's a dynamic offense in its simplest form, right? Before you can get into any sort of complex movements. I know people like to give Sampson a hard time with the offense they run, but it's very NBA focused. Get this guy the ball in this spot because of this, and then see what happens. You've got some really, really talented guys that, again, I think the way that Kingston plays downhill and the way Kingston plays downhill and the way Isiah plays with as a movement shooter that could put it on the deck if you challenge him. I mean, he can get to the rim pretty well. 6'6", long arms, good vertical leap, good explosion. He is coming off of an injury, so we can hopefully see some of that tested as senior of high school. All of that is to say that the matching of that fits really well on offense, and I would argue it fits better on defense. Again, 6'3" long arms, 6'6" long arms, both guys you can describe as dirty work kind of players. Kingston also, I'd argue, is as good as a guard can be as a rim protector, getting up around the rim on fast break kind of situations, coming over from the help side and pinning stuff off the glass. Isiah doesn't quite do that, but Isiah's length does so much to keep guys from driving on the perimeter. His two-step slides are a lot longer than your average high school two guard. It's really kind of longer than your average college two guard as well, for its worth. So he's cutting off guys dribble lanes and stuff like that, get hands in passing lanes. Both have a good knack for where the ball is. I think I would probably call Kingston the better rebounder at this point, but they're both Cougs, so who cares which ones? They're both on the floor for us, right? I do think that this pairing, though, is an important one because they both understand the momentum swing you get from taking a charge, from diving on the floor for a loose ball, from making that big save to your buddy to take it down to score. They both kind of intuitively have a knack for finding those moments and kind of sparking that momentum. And I really, really think that's going to be integral to them being guys that play early, because I think they're both talented enough that if they can get locked in, they're going to play early. The roster is going to look a lot different than it does this year, obviously, with so many guys graduating and leaving or finishing their eligibility. So I know people I can already see you type my comments about Mercy Miller and stuff like that, right? The team they're walking on to next year is not the team that Mercy walked onto this year, although they'll be playing together, and that's also really fun, right? So I'm just excited. So when you put all that together, right, more opportunities for minutes, and then the way that they already kind of have this knack for finding the ball, I think they're a very natural fit into what Sampson likes to do with his half-court ball pressure defense. Houston does a really interesting job in that they fluster and rush people on defense, but they really don't extend further than 32 feet. It's really interesting when you're paying attention to how they do it, because teams are worried about their ball pressure, but you can dribble out at 38, 37 feet. Maybe a Jamal Shed will come pick you up because that's just who's in his DNA, right? But as a team, they really kind of have a pickup point on the floor where they wait for teams to cross. And I would imagine with Kingston and Isiah, you probably extend that pickup point a little bit farther, right? But regardless, they're both impactful offensive talents that you cannot keep off the floor, that seem very well equipped, certainly as well equipped as a high school kid could be, to come in and play on the defensive side in this program. I would also stress that, Kingston has played high-level basketball, both in it, highest level the Puma circuit offers, played for Team USA, and San Antonio Brandon's played the highest level 6A basketball offers in Texas. Isiah Harwell is playing on a national level circuit team with Wasatch Academy, as well as a couple different AAU clubs that played at the highest level of the Nike EYBL and that kind of stuff, right? That all is to say that they play defense in situations in those AAU places and things like that where it's not necessarily the most common thing. We're being really honest, right? And that they didn't let that deter the way that they play. They naturally have that in them, and that's kind of why I think it is so natural in them. The pairing's great. For what it's worth, they did both visit at the same time as juniors. They came to watch Houston blow the doors off of Kansas. And I would have a hard time believing that didn't have any impact in the two of them coming. If I'm being really honest, you watch what Kelvin Sampson's built, your game, you see it in person. They blow the doors off of a legacy blue blood program that has been running the Big 12 for years. And as they do it, Houston cements their regular season victory of the Big 12. They cut down nets at the end. I mean, that's pretty special. And so this pairing seems to have been made like by divine right or something. And so we'll see where it carries Houston. I that they might not be done. So before we get into that, I want to talk some about plays over at FanDuel, America's number right now. If you put down $5, fun with that. If you wonder what some stats are or things like that you can check in on the app. They give you live stat updates, play by play, and so much more. Visit FanDuel.com today. Put $5 down, get $150 back in bonus bets. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Parker Ranger with Locked On Cougs here, breaking down the big commitment Houston gets in the 2025 class. That is Kingston Fleming, committed on Thursday afternoon. Kingston Fleming of San Antonio Brennan High School. That brings Houston's 2025 class to three really impactful players very, very quickly. Couple guys I could see very easily being in the NBA, and then Bryce Jackson. We're kind of seeing where coming back from his injuries in high school, where he develops into, that might be a little more couple 3-4 year kind of project, but we've seen Houston do that a lot with, frankly, guys that started at a very different play. Like Bryce is going to be good, right? And so we'll see. I think the fascinating thing about the class of 2025 here, though, is that Houston might not be done now. We'll see how things play out here, but you're losing a lot more than three guys to spending their last year of eligibility this year. You're out of COVID year kind of guys, I believe, across college basketball at this point. LJ will be done. J1 will be done. I don't believe Javier's got the COVID year. Malik will be done. Ramon will be done. You got a lot of spots, right? And so far you've got three. Right, that's important. McFarland will be coming back from his injury, red shirt. McCarty, who will impact this program in a big, big way, will be coming off of his freshman red shirt. And that's all fine and dandy, but you'll have roster spots available to spend. And so the question is, well, what are you going to do with the 2025 class? You're going to go to transfer for the rest, or what are you going to do? And I'm here to tell you that there are 2 5-star kids out there that both still have Houston very highly on their boards. Now, I don't know that either one has it first right now. I don't have that kind of insight or direct ties into Arizona or Louisiana. But Peat, a 6'8", sure thing, one and done. I mean, would go pro out of high school if he could kind of guy. Out of the state of Arizona, he's a Jarris Walker type of player. He's 6'8", 220, puts the ball on the floor well. I would argue he probably dribbles better than Jarris, but Jarris is definitely more bouncy, right? And so that's a little bit of a trade-off, but the same kind of impactful player. When you think like Jarris walked in and started day one as a freshman, went on to be a top 10 pick. I mean, that's what we're talking about when we talk about Cole Peat. And he's got Arizona. I keep hearing he's got Houston in his top 3. I think he's officially got a top 5 out there. I think playing near or at home is important. And the biggest thing that On3 reported was that the University of Arizona has kind of said that he's not going to get to play a more stretchy 4, it'll be more of a traditional 4 in their system. And as a guy that's trying to get to the pros very quickly, with the money for his father and the things like that, like, honestly, that probably not jiving with what he wants to do very well, right? Houston in the Big 12 will play in the state of Arizona a couple times. You could luck into playing at U of A and ASU based on scheduling stuff. So who knows how that works out. You also would play the Utah schools and stuff like that, right? But who knows if they're going to do the NIL Players Invitational in Vegas. That's not far away either, right? So you could pitch that part of it. The other thing, though, is that his game pairs up very well with what Kelvin Sampson likes to do with the stretch 4. I mean, you just think about what he did with Jarris, right? Put Jarris out on the perimeter. Jarris shot threes. Jarris helped bring the ball up. And then defensively help protect the rim and stuff like that. But that's very much in Peat's bag. And so I think that's why Houston continues to come up. Now he's also got Baylor, he's also got Texas, he's also got Arizona State. So we'll see where he falls. But I keep hearing Houston mentioned very highly with him when I talk to people. Again, I don't have anyone in the state of Arizona. If you're there, I'm at Paints with 512 on X. We can talk a little bit. I'm going to share more about that. Koa is a great culture fit, though, too. I think that's one of the reasons. He's looking at Houston. One of the big guys named Chris Cenac. Chris Cenac Jr. is from Louisiana. And frankly, he had a meteoric kind of rise in recruit rankings in the last 18 months. Houston was on him early, and I keep hearing that was important, much like it was to Kingston, because Houston believed in him early. He might be a one and done center, which is always hard to find. He's listed at 6'10". I don't know if he's 6'10", 6'11". He's got super long arms, which again is prototypical Houston Cougar big man. The most impressive thing about Chris Cenac when I watch him is the motor. The guy, I mean, you can watch entire high school games of him with his AAU stuff and stuff like that online. The dude does not stop moving. And I understand that's conceptual, like, oh, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I cannot stress how much stress that puts on a defense when you've got a athletic, long-armed, true big that does not stop. I mean, it's offensive rebounds, offensive tips, defensive rebounds, block shots, dunks, fade away. Like, does not stop moving. Really, really impressive young man and athlete. And again, he continues to have Houston in his top couple. I think Houston's biggest competition in that one is LSU. LSU being an SEC big brand school and close to, and like, again, he's from Louisiana. So when I say close to home, it's like much closer to home, right? Houston's not far away though. And I think that's probably a big role. I mean, if U of H were in El Paso for some reason, it'd be weird. But also, I don't think Houston would be in on this guy. I think playing close to home is important, and that's kind of luck of the draw with geography there. It's also, it's a great high school basketball region, right? Houston, San Antonio, all up and down the coast of Texas and the coast into Louisiana. State of Texas as a whole has great high school basketball too. But you've got a lot going on there. And I don't know that they get both. And I don't mean to say that they can't get both, Koa Peat and Chris Cenac. And then you're talking about a Fab Five rivaling kind of freshman class. You really are, right? I do think there's a good chance they get one, and I can't figure out which one it would be a better chance of. But you got to think at this point they're in season. Both Chris Cenac and Koa Peat are likely one and done kind of guys, and so they may string this out a little bit longer, right, and kind of wait to the spring window to see who stays and who goes as far as guys transferring or going pro at the different options they're looking at are, and that whichever path to the floor may impact things some, right? Which also, frankly, as a forward in Koa Peat and a forward / center in Chris Cenac, they may dictate. One may come and then the other one doesn't want to because they both try and get on the floor to get the pros very quickly. I also think, though, that truthfully, the staff at some point has to, you only have 24 hours a day, you only have so many resources. You got to focus, right? And you got to trust your gut and lean into whichever one is leaning heavier towards you and really invest in that, because you cannot go wrong with either one of those kids. And frankly, if you just stuck with the three you've got, as long as you fill up the roster, I think you're okay in the 2025 class too, for what it's worth. You've got guys coming back, like McFarland coming off injury, Tugler will be a veteran next year, et cetera, right? It'd be okay. But I just worry that there's only so much Houston Cougars to go around, and they kind of need to kind of pick which one to go all in on and really make a big push here in the kids' senior year of high school. Tell me in the comments down below which one you'd go with. I see, again, they're both one and done kind of guys. They're both probably lottery picks next year in the summer of 2026. But man, who could have imagined 10 years ago? I saw Lauren Sampson tweeted that November 14th, 10 years ago, 2014, was when Kelvin got his first win with the Houston Cougars. Who could have imagined on November 14th, 2014, that we'd be here talking about multiple 5-stars coming to Houston, and all the while being a top 10 team with those guys before those guys even get here. What? all the good reasons to get excited. Hughes Cougar basketball is in full swing. We've got a football game as well. Got an episode on that coming out in a second. So make sure you subscribe. Hit the bell so you know we're live. Breaking down the football game live after it's over. It kicks off at 9:15 p.m. We're hoping for a lot of running of the football. Locked on Cougs is a daily podcast all about the Hughes Cougars. The Locked On Podcast Network for a second list today. Locked on Big 12. Thank you each and every day. Go Cougs.